As a kid, I never really knew what the word selfish meant. All I knew was I was selfish, or at least that's what people told me. I knew that if I did certain things, I would be called selfish, although I was never entirely sure why. And then one day, I figured out what the word meant, and all of a sudden, my entire life was centered around this one definition. Lacking consideration for others, being concerned only with oneself. Is that who I am? Is that how everyone else sees me? The person I saw in the mirror changed. I didn't recognize myself anymore. For the next few years of my life, I tried to overcompensate for my selfishness by ignoring my inner voice to please other people. I gave my everything, my time, my energy, my happiness, until there was absolutely nothing left for me. I was so caught up in trying to pour my all into everyone else that it must have slipped my mind. You can't pour from an empty cup. Stay with me. Imagine you're given a choice. Save a man's life or save your own life. What do? Do you save him? If not, wouldn't you be called selfish? That man had a family. He had a wife and kids, a mother and a father, siblings, family. And you took him away from them. They are going to miss him for the rest of their lives. If you did save him, wouldn't you still be called selfish? What about your own family? Your husband or your wife, your kids, your mother and your father, your siblings? What about them? Did that stranger's life matter more to you than the rest of theirs? The point is, you would have been called selfish anyway, whether you saved your own life or his. Selfishness is not a fixed concept. It changes depending on who you ask, what they value, and how your decisions affect them. Think about it. A mother who spends long hours at work, is she selfish for prioritizing her career over spending time with her kids? Or is she selfless for sacrificing her presence to ensure her children's futures? A person in a seemingly perfect relationship, are they selfish for leaving their once loving and caring partner? Or are they selfless for building up the courage to escape from what no one else could see? Society has conditioned us to believe that selfishness is an ugly trait, when in reality, it's the people calling us selfish that benefit the most from our selflessness. Even altruism, the so-called opposite of selfishness, is a completely made-up concept. Every act of kindness, every sacrifice, has some level of self-interest, whether it's to feel good about yourself, or to fulfill some kind of personal value, to gain social approval. If being selfish is doing things that benefit yourself, then even selflessness isn't completely selfless. So, if selfishness is defined by who it affects, then maybe the problem isn't being selfish. It's allowing other people to decide what that word means for you. Many of us are afraid of being called selfish. It's something we've been taught to avoid at all costs. We grow up hearing that we should always put the needs of others before our own, that self-sacrifice is the highest form of virtue. As a result, we end up overextending ourselves, saying yes when we mean no, and letting guilt control our decisions. When we constantly prioritize the needs of others over our own, the consequences are inevitable: resentment, burnout, and eventually a loss of identity. People love to applaud self-sacrifice, but rarely do they ever tell you about the damage that it causes. We sacrifice so much for everyone else that we leave no room to make sacrifices for ourselves. Let me tell you a story. A couple of years ago, I was trapped in a toxic friendship, but there was just one issue. She was my best friend in the whole wide world. I have to admit, she had a pretty difficult home life, and as her best friend, it was my job to console her, to comfort her whenever she needed it. but that was the only time she ever reached out, the only topic of conversation. I felt I needed to listen to her, even when it drained me completely. It never mattered what I was going through or what was going on in my life. The conversation always somehow ended up being about her. I ignored how exhausted I felt for a while. I told myself that being a good friend meant always being available, always listening, always putting her needs before my own. But after a while, I snapped. I just couldn't take it anymore. I confronted her, and I told her I thought it was best that we don't speak anymore. And the moment I did, I felt like the worst person in the world. I felt selfish. I wondered if I had abandoned her, if I had failed her when she needed me most. But after a while, I realized that leaving was the best thing I could have possibly done for myself. I wasn't a bad person for setting a boundary. I had just finally reached my limit. And if that was selfish, then selfishness isn't the thing I thought it was. We're teaching ourselves that our needs don't matter, and it doesn't just affect our well-being, but also our ability to show up for people in meaningful ways. We need to redefine selfishness. We've been programmed to believe that selfishness is synonymous with being a bad person, with being greedy or inconsiderate. But selfishness, in its healthiest form, is truly about valuing yourself. When we value ourselves, we're not only improving our own lives, we're becoming better versions of ourselves for the world around us. When we take care of our own needs, we have more to offer others. We're able to show up fully, to be present, to be kind, to be loving, because we're not running on empty. So, how can we embrace healthy selfishness? It starts with making decisions that prioritize your well-being without guilt. It's about setting clear boundaries, saying no when we need to, and removing ourselves from toxic situations that drain our energy, just like I did. So, I challenge you, redefine what selfishness means to you. Choose yourself. Set boundaries that protect your peace without guilt. Because when you do, you'll realize that you're not only becoming a better person for yourself, but also for the world around you. Choose selfishness, not out of greed, but out of love, for yourself and for the world. Thank you.